Hello and welcome everyone to round 6 of the Charlotte Open. This is Emily's last round of the tournament. She is 3 out of 5, looking to go 4 out of 6. She won the first two, she lost the next two, and then she's back with a win in her previous game with the black pieces, and now she's here in the last game with white. She's sticking to her London opening. We've got d4, bishop f4, and knight c3. Black having played d5, knight f6, and now e6. That blocks in the light square bishop, but this should still be totally fine. Black's ready to get the dark square bishop out and castle kingside soon. Emily might bring the queen out and castle along. We maybe speculate a little bit on that, but no, she's going for an early attack against this c pawn. So knight a6, a development move, protecting that weakness, but putting the knight on the edge of the board still should be just fine. There's also check with the bishop, and then bring the bishop back to a5. That is a very solid response as well. So this is very exciting. Emily's second ever tournament, last game of today and of the tournament. She could end with a very good score. This already, I think, might be a step in the wrong direction. We might see a capture here with the knight. That would be exciting. Because that would give Emily the bishop pair. She does exactly just that. So black's going to have to take back with the pawn. That's already going to damage the structure just a little bit. So I think there were probably better ways for black to have dealt with that threat against c7. But just bring the bishop out. It works. Black's ready to castle. It's not the end of the world for black, but this is already a good start for Emily's London system. Yeah, there were other ways to defend. We pointed out knight a6, I think was the top recommendation, but also bishop b4 to a5 looked very solid. Bishop to d6, it gets the job done, but maybe a slight inaccuracy. Not as good as the other options. So we'll see if Emily can take advantage of this slight inaccuracy. She has a slight advantage here out of the opening. All right, and now she just brings her pawn up to e3, connecting the pawn chain, making sure that her light square bishop now can come out. Probably will go to, yeah, one of these three squares. We see a quick castle from black. Maybe bishop to g5, honestly, now that there's no dark square bishop around, but maybe black will connect the knights. Knight here, knight to g5 might be annoying pin to get out of, followed by queen to f3. What's up, Jenny and Z? Welcome back. Hello, Uncle Jesse. Good to see you. Hope your stream went well yesterday. This is still book. Yeah, this is Emily's London preparation here. Very confident. She's looking great on the board. And yeah, it's her turn. So opponent quick castles, lots of options for white. You can bring the light square bishop out. You can bring the knight out. You can bring the queen out. You can move this bishop again. The computer's calling for c3. Also, it does like bishop g5. And it also likes knight f3. So I was thinking bishop to d3 makes a lot of sense, pointing at this king side. Bishop to g5, I both like and don't like. There's a lot of pros and cons. I think the pro, obviously, is that you're pinning this knight. The con is that I think black can just connect their knights and then get the queen out of the pen. Not a big deal. That does limit the bishop. Another thing I don't like about it is that we're moving the same piece twice, and it's the only piece we've developed. And there's 3 other pieces here that we could develop. So I really do like bishop d3. This is definitely one of my favorite moves out of that position. And only now, after knight c6, now I like bishop to g5 even more, because the knights no longer can connect, and therefore the queen must remain in this pin if black doesn't want to take back with a pawn. So now I think bishop g5 is a little bit better. We delayed playing it to develop another piece, and only now, after the knight has committed to c6, bishop g5 I think is going to be even more annoying. So Emily, I believe, did not do that. She played c3, and this is a very solid move. It takes away b4 from the knight, and it also gives the bishop squares to go back if the queen wants to get in front of it. Pairing that with bishop g5, pinning the knight, is a huge threat. Emily definitely sees it as well. We see the bishop come out for black, trying to focus on development, and now that actually blunders a pawn on d6. We see the double question mark from chess.com. Time control is 90 plus 30, so it's 90 minutes with a 30-second increment. A lot of time. Both players have actually gained time from the start, and we actually see a blunder now from black. Will Emily snag a free pawn with tempo? Let the rook move to safety? I mean, technically they could block with the knight. That would probably not be a good move, but hey, free pawn is a free pawn. Very low consequences. You just bring the bishop right back. You have the same threats as before, but you're up a pawn here. What's up, Houseline? Hello, Smurfette. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Something's wrong with the video? What's wrong with the video? Does anyone else see anything wrong with the video? Am I lagging? Oh, I'm having dropped frames. That's what's wrong. We're gonna just cross our fingers and hope that the lag fixes itself somehow. Is there an echo? I'm sorry. Yeah, my OBS is not working right now, so that's unfortunate. I'm not really sure. Oh, can you hear the microphone? Okay, I'm gonna try starting up again. I'm gonna stop it. So you're gonna and we should be back. Apologies for that. Hope we're all back. I don't know. OBS is being finicky right now, but hopefully it holds and hopefully we're good. But otherwise, Emily did grab that pawn, which was great. So opponent developed the bishop and blundered a pawn. This goes way back to when the opponent needed to defend this pawn. There were two good choices, bringing the knight out or bringing the bishop out. However, they opted to go bishop to d6, allowing her to capture. And now this pawn is actually a bit of a weakness. After the bishop comes out, it's no longer defended by the queen. So Emily capitalized on that, taking the free pawn. And now just completing some development. Wow. Yeah, this was a tactic back. So it looks like both players have blundered a pawn, perhaps. This is a nice little trick here from the opponent. Apparently knight e5 was needed. Or you could just castle. But this should still be fine. We just take back with one of the pawns. Probably the e pawn. If you take with the c pawn, then maybe our queen can get hit. But this should not dissuade Emily too much. A nice move from the opponent here. The computer just doesn't like knight takes. I don't know the players' ratings, but I'm sure we could look up like the USCF rating of both. I think Emily is around 950. She's a little provisional. This is only her second ever tournament. The opponents I'm less sure of, but both sides have already dropped a pawn. This is a nice tactic though, a discovery on the bishop. So I think instead of bringing the knight out, maybe just bring the bishop back. Although to be fair, yeah, once you allow queen here, it's kind of a dual threat. I'm wondering if you could play bishop back to a3 and hold on to this pawn. But the computer really did just like to play knight e5 and didn't care too much about the b pawn, interestingly. Because after the b pawn falls, the c pawn is also hanging. So yeah, queen to c2, and there goes the pawn. So both sides giving up pawns. The good news for Emily is this is still a very good position. She just needs to take back. She has 3 options to take back. The only other thing she could think about, there's really nothing, because the queen is hit by the knight with a check, so that's a big threat. So she really needs to take the knight. So she's just kind of deciding how she wants to take it back. And she might be slowing down a little bit, because when you're this early into the opening, especially when she still has the same amount of time that the clock has started with, and you blunder a pawn like this, it's kind of a shot, right? You're kind of shocked that, wow, I didn't see that, right? And that's kind of a warning sign. If you're playing too quickly and your opponent does something that you don't see, that could be dangerous, because you're kind of taking a lot of risk. If you're making moves without really taking the time to assess what your opponent's threats are and what their last move has done. So queen here is a very nice move by our opponent, a double attack a sneaky double attack, hitting the pawn directly. Queen c2, defending the pawn, developing the queen, lining up with the bishop, but failing to see the queen is lined up against our hanging bishop. So they say loose pieces drop off. This bishop did a good job of grabbing a free pawn, but now it is undefended, unprotected. And similarly here, the bishop is opposite the queen. If this bishop were to move, there's a discovery, but there's no good forward moves. There's only one underdeveloping move, so that's kind of off the radar. But once the queen gets here, it's hitting the bishop from the side, and now this knight has some really nice discoveries, some tactical ideas here, and that's exactly what Emily missed. Knight takes d4 played by the opponent, and again, we kind of see how a classical game can be played like blitz sometimes if the players are playing very, very quickly. Opponent actually has gained 6 minutes on the clock, and oh, we see knight takes. This is the third option that was the least favorite of the computers. This actually gives the edge to black. And I think it's because we wanted a pawn on d4 to help control the center, especially with the knight still around, helping, maybe even starting some sort of attack. And now maybe black can take space in the center. Computer's saying the best move is bishop to b5, and I suspect we're not going to see that. But maybe castling is an idea. Yeah, black could always get this in, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, we've got a long game ahead of ourselves here. We've got a long one. Someone tell me, is that CL Smith? I'll feel bad if it's not. Alan saying opponent is 737. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, that looks like CL Smith. Shout out to CL Smith. Hello, Zoomja. Hello, Adrian. Hello again, Fly. Peaceful. Master Chess Dojo. Good to see everyone's back. Hello, Chess Kibitzer. Okay, so Emily has castled. A great move in my mind. Knight here threatens to end the game. Interestingly, you could take here with check, although I don't know if that would be good. But that's maybe another reason why the knight wants to be on f3, help defending h2 a little bit, although you could just play h3 here, but not after knight g4. But I don't think knight g4 will be played. That's a one-move threat. Is that Ben Feingold? Is that Sam Copeland? Oh my goodness. Is Sam playing Ben? That's amazing. I should look up the other games. Shout out to all the streamers. A lot of streamers in Charlotte. Let me see if I can confirm. Yeah, Sam's playing Ben. That's awesome. Also, Dina won her game last round. We rated her channel, which is great. Dina. She has 2 points out of 5. So she'll try to end even. She's got the white pieces too. But yeah, we've got all eyes on Emily. She's leaning over the board. It's her turn. She's got hand on her head. She's putting all of her thoughts and energy into this next move. A calm move, a quiet move. A6 from the opponent. It's a solid move. It's taking control over b5. The computer did like bishop b5 idea instead of castling. But yeah, Emily, with this last move, she's connected her rooks. So now she can put them in the center. The D file makes a lot of sense. It's a semi-open file opposite the queen. Silent Scream. Emily won her last game. Oh, thank you, Smurfette. Hello, Brody. Shout out to Chanel. Uncle Jesse saying we need JB in a tournament. I am happy to do that. I've just been pretty busy as of late, but hopefully after this week, I'll be a little bit less busy. We're starting the India College Chess Championship on Thursday. So today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, I'll be making sure all of that is set up and ready to go. Shout out to Brody. Maybe I'll play some tournaments with Brody. Maybe. But also, I heard Uncle Jesse might join a tournament this year, 2025. When and where, I don't know yet. But I think all the fans are waiting patiently. 2025 will be the year. 24K turtle points on the Joe tournament? I don't think so. You see White losing Elliot Lee. Well, this is very early on in the game. It's a classical game, so we've got a lot of time left. And there's a lot of potential left in the position for both sides. There's no clear win. I think if a computer played this from both sides, it would be a draw. But luckily, neither player is a computer. We've already seen both sides blunder a pawn. So Emily definitely had a nice advantage, a nice little freebie pawn. But the opponent has neutralized that with a nice tactic of their own, getting the material back. And we're back on even footing here. So it's really anyone's game. Whoever will play better most likely will end with a win. So we'll see what happens. Lots of choices here. A lot of rook moves for Emily. She can go to the C file, the D file, the E file. She could push some pawns. Maybe she could move her knight. I think all of these are very solid. There's really not a lot of moves that Emily could make that would be a huge blunder. Shy of blundering a piece in one move or something. Yeah, I could even see her pushing her f-pawn, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. And there she goes, f3. And the idea of f3 is I think she wants to play e4. The computer doesn't like this so much because of e5. That's exactly what the opponent has played very quickly as well, I might add. e5, taking the pawn duo in the center. But I don't necessarily think this is that bad for Emily. Knight f5, I think, is a fine move, attacking the queen. And yeah, maybe at some point Black's going to play e4. But I think if given the opportunity, maybe Emily would be happy to play e4. But yeah, this is why a couple moves ago, the computer wanted us to take on d4 with a pawn instead of the knight, because the pawn would help control e5, just controlling more of the center. Putting the knight in the center, although the knight looks nice, it's going to get kicked by this pawn push, which we've allowed. So we'll see where Emily goes with her knight. There's a lot of good moves. Really, she can go to any of these three and be a-okay. Knight f5 is probably the most aggressive. We would love to see them trade their bishop off. We get a bishop versus a knight, sort of in game. Hello, Dr. Jules. Hello, Rob. Yes, go Blues. Appreciate that. They've got back-to-back games against Vegas coming up, so that should be a good time. Blues won back-to-back against Calgary and then lost to Utah, which is where Emily's from. Although Emily was there before they had a hockey team. Myself as well. That would have been fun. I feel like my time at Utah would have been better if I was closer to the city and if they had a hockey team. But, things worked out the way they did. Now I'm in St. Louis. I can watch all the hockey I want, which is great because I just go anywhere and they'll have the game on the TV, which is not the case anywhere else I've lived. Why is Joe not playing there? I'm not playing at the Charlotte Open because I didn't sign up for it. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm going to shout out CL Smith every time I see him. So shout out to CL Smith. Just saw him walking back there. Wish that man would stream a little bit more, but that's okay. Dude, imagine if CL Smith was streaming his Charlotte Open. Maybe he'll make some YouTube videos about his Charlotte Open games. Maybe. What's the chance that they reach 2 hours? It's very low. You get 30 seconds per move. So basically every minute or every move is a minute out of, although I guess just for her clock it's 30 seconds. So you would have to, well, you're trying to add 30 minutes to the start of their clock. After 60 moves, right? That'd be 30 minutes. But also you'd have to spend no time at all. And we're only on move 14, so probably pretty low. All right, and the knight has gone to f5. Love this move. Most aggressive move. Best move. And asking a question to the black queen. Oh, chat, get ready for your picture. Everyone say cheese. We got a photographer getting a shot at Emily's position here. Shout out to the Charlotte Chess Center. I'm pretty sure that might go on their Instagram. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, maybe. I agree with Smurfette for sure. The clock science. Yeah. We'll see. I would say the odds are pretty low. Okay, so the knight has moved, and now queen to b6, attacking the e3 pawn, which is interesting. Computer's calling for queen to b3. Queen b3, I suspect, will not be played, as it introduces a queen trade. Although they're both even on material, right? We might see something like queen f2. I don't know. Maybe after e4, it's annoying. We might be losing a pawn here. So there's a couple issues here. First issue is the pawn is pinned to the king as we've pushed our f-pawn. The pawn currently is defended by the knight, but this brings our second issue, is that the knight is hit by the bishop. Another issue is after e4, the knight's not going to be defended by the bishop anymore. So we can take once, yes, but we cannot take twice, as that pawn will then be protected. Although after the capture, the knight is still defended by the rook. But if we bring our queen here, for example, then if we trade after they push, and we move our bishop somewhere, then takes the knight, the queen gets deflected, and now the pawn is no longer protected. So I think we could go queen to e2 or to d2, actually. So both queen moves will protect all of our weak pawns. So queen to b6, a tricky move by the opponent who played it instantly, posing some problems. That's why the computer likes queen b3. Queen b3 offering the queen trade. There's no time to take the pawn because it's defended by the knight. And there's no time to take the knight because the queen would be hanging. So queen b3, we can pose a queen trade. Although I'm a little curious, what if black just holds on to this? Yeah, there's always rook ae1 is what the computer's saying is it's fine. I feel like you could probably play rook ae1 right now. But yeah, this pawn push might be annoying. So f3, it boxed out the knight, and it helps control e4 a little bit, but it does weaken e3. So yeah, opponent blundered one pawn early, playing fast, and now has played really well and still is playing really fast. So I think if Emily is able to get through the tricky situation that she's in, and like, to be honest, saying getting through maybe is a bit much, because worst case scenario, she loses a pawn, right? Which is not the end of the world by any means. I mean, of course, there could be worst case scenarios if she blunders like a piece or something like that, but right now we're worried about her e-pawn, and it looks like she's definitely aware of that. Here she just moves the king aside. So this does give up the pawn. But I think that this is not that big of a deal. So yeah, e4 played very fast by the opponent, and it's a very good move as well. We'll see how Emily reacts to this. She pretty much has to take this, otherwise she's losing the knight. But I suspect that if the opponent keeps up this pace, it's going to hurt them in the end. I think they might be able to blunder and let Emily back in somehow. So yeah, Emily needs to take this pawn. She's going to move her bishop out of the danger, and then she might lose the e-pawn, but she can maybe use that file with her rooks to get some activity. Yeah, opponent's pretty much playing instantly. Yeah, Emily, she doesn't really save the pawn. She dodges the diagonal, moves the king into the corner, and yeah, opponent's gonna be winning material here now. So not the end of the world by any means, but obviously not ideal. If when I play tournaments, will I stream them? I think it's unlikely I would stream them. I don't think I've ever had a game on a DGT board. So I don't know. I think I have to personally get more in the habit of just streaming myself in general. Worry about the OTB stuff later. Yeah, this game is far from over. This game is far from over. Definitely not winning for white. Computer really likes black after this last move. Emily's going to be losing a pawn if the opponent decides to go for it. So we'll see. Yeah, I see Abacus is pointing out a potential blunder. So yeah, Emily captures. That was a necessity to not lose a piece. So now after black recaptures, if we play bishop to c4, then we might get hit with a queen c5. So, yeah, interestingly, the computer doesn't want queen c5. Trying to think of why. There might be some tactics. I mean, there's always tactics. But maybe something to do with this F file. All right, because bishop c4 is the second best move by the computer. Queen c5 looks like it's just a fork of two pieces. So I'm wondering if there's like some tactic. It's not obvious. Queen b3, but I figured we'd be losing a piece. We might get the pawn in the exchange back, but I don't know how good it would be. Maybe I'll just put it on the board. Okay, now it is saying queen c5 is best. Wait, what was it saying before? Queen c5, yeah, queen b3. So I think that we're not going to see bishop c4, though. I do think bishop e2 is going to be played, and it's going to be a little bit better. Oh, no, she goes to c4. All right, well, we'll see what the opponent does. I think, yeah, I was confused because the computer initially was saying bishop takes f5 is best. And then just taking the pawn. Yeah, honestly, this is kind of the original tactic, the original idea with queen to b6. And they might just go for it, right? But it does look like queen c5 is very annoying. So queen c5, the computer's now saying is slightly better. Either of these moves, very good for black, for sure. I'm a little bit more worried about queen c5 because it looks like we're losing a piece. That being said, opponent might just go for the pawn, which is very good still, but not nearly as good. And if opponent does anything else, then maybe we're just chilling. So, yeah, computer saying rook e5 is the third best, but that allows for knight to d4. So if given the opportunity, knight d4 would pretty much save everything for Emily. And I think we're going to have to cross our fingers and hope that that happens. Opponent has played extremely quickly for the entirety of this game. And right now, oh, she's walking away. She can't stand looking at the position. She might see the blunder now, or the fork. But yeah, it's not really a good sign for Emily that the opponent is taking time here to think. So they're not keeping up with the pace of just moving immediately, which is kind of right now where we want them to do that. Emily's opponent is around 750 or so USCF. All right, so big moment. Wow. Okay. The opponent has elected to play knight to g4. And now the computer says this is completely fine with the move h3. This is a very scary move, though, I must admit. You know, you're in checking range, you're in forking range, and you're attacking h2. The computer says we have more or less a few outs. Two of them involve attacking the knight. It wants h3. This is the top recommendation. It also likes queen e2. And I think a lot of the counterplay has to do with this f file being opened. So pushing the f pawn might seem weakening, and it really did weaken the e pawn for sure. And also putting the bishop on c4 is very risky, and that it allowed queen c5 with a fork. But the coordination between the rook and the bishop, along with the fact that the rook has left f8 due to the bishop hitting the rook earlier, it's all adding together into the computer saying now it's actually slightly favoring white, or that it's even. So opponent had two opportunities to tactically win material, which would have been really good, and elects for a trickier move, knight g4, that might look promising, but actually gives Emily great opportunities. That's very nice. She's pointing out her previous move as Emily has returned. So now Emily's going to write down the move on her sheet, and hopefully she can have a sigh of relief knowing that she's gotten through a tricky situation here. Opponent took their time on that move and still missed two great chances to win material. So maybe Emily's move, not on the board, but her move away from the board, getting up and walking away, helped her, because maybe she saw the tactic and couldn't stand it anymore. And she's been given a gift here as she returns, seeing an opportunity lost for her opponent. Now, I will say this. If she saw either of those good moves for the opponent, seeing a different move might be a sigh of relief, but also it could be maybe scary in a sense that it's something that you weren't expecting. And now Emily has to figure out if this is better for her opponent or if it's worse. And it was definitely worse, because now Emily has a couple of chances here to get back into this game. So best move is simply h3. I don't know if I would do that or agree with that. What I'm worried about after h3 is I feel that they would play bishop takes on f5. And then, computer wants just rook takes. But I'm still worried about this. But I guess takes, king h8. I was thinking, how crazy would it be to just take the rook? But if we do that, they don't take the queen. I mean, they might take... How crazy would that be? My point is that you would blunder mate back rank. But the idea is that black wouldn't take your queen. They would take your rook. And now this is really bad for you. So if you bring the bishop back here, let's say, then there's like, okay, rook f8. I don't know. Because this knight, the dark squares, this pawn, it's all looking good for black. But the idea is not to take on e8, but apparently we just play queen f2 and life is good. So if takes... Oh, it's pinned. Wow. Would Emily see the pin on the knight? I don't know. But yeah, h3 is what the computer wants. I don't like it because of bishop takes, and I missed this queen f2 pin. So that's on me. Because, yeah, after takes the bishop, I figured rook takes, knight takes, we're getting forked. But we have queen f2 to get out of it. After we take on f7, of course. But if, takes, I thought we would just have to take the knight, which I didn't think was very good because our pawns get doubled and isolated in front of our king. But no, after bishop takes, we just take here. So Yeah, and if they take the pawn, then we'll gladly take, say you can take back, but then we're going to get the fork and the pawn back and the exchange at the end of all of that. So h3 is a really good move if Emily finds it. She's definitely leaning forward and looking. I suspect that she might not go for h3, but rather another defensive move or attacking the knight. So queen e2, I feel like, would be a really good opportunity. The idea is, one, we're defending the pawn, but two, mainly we're attacking the knight, right? And there's no time to take this pawn because it's defended. And if they take the knight, then rook takes, and we have this really strong idea. And so there's still no time for black to take that pawn because we have another threat. So I really like queen e2. The computer also likes queen b3 again, just trying to trade off queens. I really am not expecting that. So h3 is good, although tricky. It didn't seem good to me at first because I missed queen f2. So if Emily sees that, that would be really impressive. But queen e2, I think, is a little bit more findable. She has won 3 games and lost 2 games. So she's currently 3 out of 5, and this is the 6th and final game. Emily's looking to get some points. And okay, she's played knight back to d4. This is a blunder. This is something that we pointed out earlier that she would love to do to kind of block the queen's attack. But the problem is that black has created a new threat of attacking e3. And that is not only just a pawn, but it's also a fork. Although I will say, knight to d4, if knight takes e3, we can take on f7 with a fork, with a check. So even though we're getting forked, we can counter fork them. So yeah, knight d4 is played. This is a miss. And the computer does not want knight takes e3. It wants the rook to move and defend the pawn. So, okay, interestingly, black has also put the king into the corner and playing fast still. Both sides playing very fast. Now computer likes queen e2 again, just defending the e-pawn. So, very fast chess being played here by both sides, especially our opponent here with the black pieces still having more time than they've started with. Queen e2 has just been played. A great move by Emily. Definitely a move that she saw and has now played, but maybe could have played a move earlier. Because I think the knight on f5 maybe was a little useful or helpful. It did defend the pawn. Knight here does defend the pawn this way as well. But yeah, this is what we call a hanging pawn. But Emily elects to defend her e-pawn first and foremost, and we'll leave the pawn hanging for black to try and defend later. So perhaps that's what we'll see now. Will black save that pawn? The computer is saying to play queen c7. The idea is, actually, I don't know the idea. Because queen c7 to me looks like, oh, it's threatening checkmate. That's the idea. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, queen c7. Because then you'd have to like block. You can't push h3 anymore. So yeah, rook f4 blocks diagonal and has a counterpunch against the knight. This is getting crazy. I was thinking like, oh, it's a free pawn, and then I would have blundered checkmate. Oh, did they just play queen c7? Yes, they did. All right, Emily, do not take the pawn. It's not free. Don't take the pawn. It's not a free pawn. Oh, she sees it for sure. She sees it. So rook f4 would be really nice if she plays that because it's attacking the knight. But I think g3 is just also very solid. There's no other moves. besides those two. You have to put something on this diagonal, which means you have to put something here or here. Rook f4 attacks the knight. The rook does go into a pin though, so you really got to be careful about a move like g5. G5 right away doesn't work because we just take the knight. And if they take, oh, but then our bishop hangs. But their king would be really weak after they play a move like g5. So, very interesting. Very interesting. The computer does like rook f4 best, but after they play a move f5 defending the knight, then I think g5 is a really big threat. So after rook f5, f5, we really have to play g3 at that point, because otherwise we're going to probably lose some more material. Okay, so rook f4 played. Big move here from Emily. Top move. And now she is threatening to take the knight. Actually, I mean, maybe she's just threatening to take the pawn now. Because I don't really think she can do this, because this is hanging at the end. Although knight here, maybe. Interesting. Who knows? But yeah, a rocky game so far. It's been very back and forth. Black is definitely very aggressive, very attacking for sure. Missed some material earlier. I would say after Black dropped their pawn, they've been playing very well. Aside from their missed opportunity, Emily has been very defensive this whole game. Because of the aggressiveness from her opponent. So I think also knight takes on d4 has been a large source of Emily's problems so far, allowing these pawns in. And also the e pawn is a very big weakness. This has been a large source of tactics for Emily's opponent so far in this game. Wow. Okay, so g5. This is a blunder. Now, we were looking at taking the knight twice, allowing for queen takes bishop, but this pawn is a huge weakness to the king. So Emily might feel like she's blundered. Maybe she missed that the bishop was hanging, but also maybe she really five-headed it, because she's played. Now she's winning. She is winning. She might not know that she's winning, but this g-pawn push, as aggressive as it seems, is actually more weakening. Black might think that they're winning material here, and maybe technically they are, because, well, white initially wins material by taking 2 pieces for 1 rook, and yes, Emily has taken both knight and bishop. The best move is to take on c4, but the problem is after the g-pawn falls, this king becomes a source of so many tactics because of how exposed he is. So if Black doesn't take the bishop, Emily's just up material with the safer king, right? Black has really handcuffed themselves by playing g5. And yes, Black has taken the bishop and technically is up in exchange, but now Emily needs to just take on g5, take that pawn, and go after this weakened king. So this is going to be tricky because white's better, but is down material, which means Emily really has to be on top of the tactics. It all starts with taking the g-pawn. You don't want to leave that pawn around. You got to take it now while you can. Takes, and let's say the rook wants to come to the file. We check. The rook has to block, and then voila, the knight comes in. We're already getting the exchange back. So let's see if Emily's got to take this pawn. Otherwise, she could play queen f5. The idea is to just go after the check again, I think. But Yeah, she takes the pawn, because why not? I think the only thing you had to fear was maybe the G file being used against you, but as soon as you could see that the rook gets pinned, this should be really good for Emily. So now there's only one move that's like somewhat playable for black, and apparently it's rook e6, giving up the exchange. I absolutely do not see that happening, but yeah, I think the threat, if queen f6 is allowed, which by the way, how else would you stop it? King here and then knight to f5, that's just going to be GG. That's not really a stoppable checkmate. So the queen can't prevent queen f6. The knight that we criticized going to d4 has now become an all-star piece. It's going to go to f5 and assist the deliverance of checkmate. We see rook g8 played, and now queen f6, rook g7, knight f5. So Emily's at least getting her exchange back, which is huge, but the computer's saying this is a +7 evaluation. Queen e5 is also possible and might actually be enticing because she might get this extra pawn. But queen here is only +3.5, which is still amazing. But queen f6 is over +7 for white because after rook block, we have knight f5. That being said, I'm not entirely sure exactly the fall. I think at some point the rook wants to go to the d file because black's also going to have back rank issues. Where does the evaluation come from? I think it's the fact that the rook's going to be pinned and that Emily needs to get the other rook involved. Okay, she didn't do f6, which is a little unfortunate. I think she's going to take the pawn, which is not relevant in the attack, right? I think she might be being a little materialistic. Queen on f6, just being a little bit closer, I think would coordinate a little bit better with attacking the king and like the knight coming in. So we're gonna have to dive a little deeper and see what happens. I see rook g8, right? And now here it just says just take on g7. Takes, and then yeah, you're gonna have, I think, just rook d1, right? Oh, and rook d1 coordinates with the queen. That's really nice because there's no way the queen can come back and protect back rank mate. So after rook d1, the computer is saying queen d3. Oh my goodness. Yeah, or yeah, you just have to give it the queen here. If some pawn push, for example, yeah, this is gonna be mate. So she missed the queen f6 idea. But we're getting moves on the board. She gives a check, and yeah, she just grabbed the pawn. This is a big mistake because she's pinned the knight to herself, and she's unpinned the rook. So now black can get out of this, but it's still a very tricky situation. Yeah, Emily went for the pawn. She's I think she's just playing fast to match her opponent. She needs to play queen e5 again to pin the rook. But yeah, she lost a lot of time by grabbing the pawn, right? That cost her some moves, and that gave her opponent some moves. So instead, she could have gone to f6 right away, and then instead of grabbing the pawn, she could have played knight f5 right away. What are they saying? They're talking to each other? I missed it. But yeah, black has doubled their rooks, and now, I mean, there's another pawn for grabs, but That would not be great. Um, but yeah, queen e5 is still playable. Queen e5 with the threat of knight f5. Yeah, she's played queen e5 now, so the rooks are pinned. And now the computer actually likes f6. I don't believe that would be played, but you know, who knows? What's the idea of f6? After takes, then there's queen d5, which threatens checkmate. So that's interesting. Otherwise, computer just likes rook d8, which I don't really understand. It's all too confusing. Yeah, she's played queen e5, and now queen d3 has been played, and now knight f5. Emily has been given a second opportunity to play knight f5. And to be fair, it's really tricky to find a way to stop knight f5. Really, the only way is to threaten checkmate on this g2 square, and it's by playing f6 and then playing queen d5. Now there's no chance to play knight f5. You have to defend checkmate, and the computer's calling for rook g1. And even after that, I'm still not entirely sure how you would stop knight f5. You kind of have to go for a queen trade at that point. So there you have now queen f7 as a resource at your disposal because you pushed the f-pawn. But just throwing away the pawn on the initial look might not be so obvious. Queen d3 is a blunder because now just knight f5, which she's played. Emily has found her tactic. She's attacking the pinned piece, and so she will simply be up 2 pawns in a queen, rook, and pawn endgame, which is good news because we like being up material. She would have won a lot more material had she found queen f6, knight f5, and then rook d1 at the end. Now she has no rook d1 move, and this queen is a little annoying, but all in all, good things for Emily. She does have back rank vulnerability, and her e-pawn is isolated and weak, but black's pawns are fewer for sure, and these pawns are also separated, and the king's a little bit weaker as well. So yeah, they're playing fast for sure. What's their rating? Emily's around 950, and her opponent is around 750. Yeah, they're talking to each other. they're just saying little comments, I think. Um, yeah, her opponent just writing down a lot of moves, and now she leans back. I think she's upset that she missed knight f5, but it was very difficult to stop that anyways, and I think probably knight f5 was missed by both sides even earlier. So yeah, opponent sitting back and thinking has about a 30-minute advantage over Emily, but I don't think that's going to play a factor in the end of this game. So we'll see. It's very far from over for sure. Even if you're in this like 2-pawn up end game, like even if they leave a queen or a rook on, I mean, especially if they leave a queen or a rook on, it's very hard to still be able to push and to promote, right? There's a lot of resistance that can be put up, especially if the black queen can start threatening some checkmates, right, or some pawns. It's very tricky. It's far from over for sure. Hello, Joey. Good to see you. Okay, H pawn has been pushed. H6 was the third best move, and now Emily should take the rook. Although, okay, she's doing it immediately. Rook takes back, and now the computer likes queen to b8. and then just take on b7. It says trade the isolated e pawn for the healthy b pawn, I suppose. Also, the queen on this diagonal helps defend, which is really good. Hello, Vindictive. It is 90 plus 30. Opponent got up to like 7 minutes above their starting time. So they've been playing very quickly, for sure, very aggressively as well. But Emily has done a good job of neutralizing the threats, and she's now ahead. She's up on top. It really came down to, there was this moment, rook f4. Now, the threat is to take, and I think Black saw that the bishop would hang at the end, but what they didn't see is that after g5, there was going to be a lot of counterplay with the queen and the knight getting at this very weakened king. So this move won material in the short run. After this, Black is up in exchange, but after taking and checking, Black would have to give the exchange right back because of the coordination between the queen and the knight. That exchange that was won was very short-lived. Emily didn't play the best continuation, going immediately for the g7 square, but instead picking up a pawn and only later getting knight f5. So she still gets the exchange. King here is a little peculiar. But you know what? That's okay. Apparently it's the third best move. I couldn't really tell you why. But it did like queen b8 check to take the b pawn. It also liked queen f4 attacking this pawn. So let's see. Here and now the queen is going to threaten checkmate. So that is not good. And yeah. I mean, you could still go queen b8, queen takes b7. That would be really nice. That would be the best, actually, because you're winning a pawn and you're defending both of your pawns. Otherwise, how would you defend both of these pawns? I think what's troubling Emily might be this e pawn, because after you take this pawn, you will lose that pawn with check. So it's not like you're winning material. And it's also scary to give up a check, especially by a queen that's so nearby with a rook. But okay, she's played g3. This is the third best move. However, it gives up a large part of her advantage. It really liked queen e8 as well. But okay, queen takes b2 now is going to be a problem. Right? So your rook's going to be hanging, your pawn's going to be hanging, and there goes two pawns in the blink of an eye, in a flash. And that's her advantage. She was up two pawns, and now she's not going to be up two pawns. Basically, her pawns are going to be bad too. She's going to have these pawns left. So had she won this pawn and saved this pawn and the g pawn, she would lost her weak pawn. But she would have had a really healthy 3 versus 1. She would have had a pass pawn on the c file as well. And yeah, she would have conceded a check and lost a pawn, but I think it was worth it. So I don't know if she sees the check and the pawn, but I think she is playing a little too quickly regardless of whether or not she saw it. Because there goes her b pawn and soon her a pawn as well. So yeah, now it's even. It's even again. It's anyone's game. It's going to be even number of pawns, a rook and a queen. And what Emily has going for her is king safety. I think the fact that the king side pawns are separated for black and that the rook is in a pin, these are good things for sure. So we see the rook coming to f1 and queen takes a2. It actually defends the f pawn. So that is a bit of bad luck, maybe. That being said, taking the A pawn alleviates pressure on the C pawn. It also doesn't defend the B pawn anymore. So, yeah, opponent does take on A2. Maybe there's this queen check to scoop up the pawn again. And I guess Emily would technically be up material. 4 pawns to 3. But yeah, the A pawn is passed now. And yeah, I mean, this game, there's barely any material left on the board. Emily still has about an hour left on the clock, so I really do think we tell Emily, like, let's take our time, you know, let's slow down. And it's tough when your opponent is playing so fast. You feel like you kind of have to match them. I mean, I definitely will feel that pressure as well. But I think just knowing like how long 50 minutes is, and you've played 32 moves, and like the position has barely any pieces left, it's like that's a lot of extra time there that she could be using to find some of these better moves, right? Like, for example, instead of playing G3, she really should have gone for this B pawn, because that would have saved the queenside pawns and defended the mate threat. Shout out to Cash Carbon. Good to see you. Yeah, you have to write down your moves. It's called notation. I'm sure you know what notation is, but when you're playing official rated games by USCF or by FIDE, you must record the moves. And that way, if there's any dispute, the arbiter can look at the score sheet. The score sheet is also used to submit games for their rating. It's also just a good way for tournament organizers to record who won and who lost. But it's also just good for the players to have a historical record and keep track, and that's mainly how players actually review their games afterwards, because they have it written down. Okay, so Emily does not go for the B pawn, instead elects to bring the rook up. She's going for the rook lift. I don't know if she's just missing this idea. That being said, after you grab the B pawn, then black has some... well, I guess there were no checks with the rook here. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this rook lift. But I think she's going for G4, actually. This would be very aggressive. That would be huge. Now, there's always some defensive maneuvers. There's a check and bringing the queen back. So it's not like Emily is forcing mate, but she can threaten it, which is a good start, because the opponent can blunder, for sure. Because the difference between queen B1 check and queen A1 check could be the difference between the game, winning or losing. And we've seen how fast the opponent's been playing. If you play that fast, you run the risk of blundering. And there's been some blunders so far on both sides. What's her current tournament score? She's 3 out of 5. So she had a great start. She won 2 out of 2. Then she lost 2. And she won her last game, bringing her back to a positive score. And now this is the 6th and final round of the tournament. So big event right now. Queen comes all the way back to E6. Pressure on the E pawn, offering a queen trade. Queen trade, I mean, what I don't like is that black has a pass pawn and white does not. So, and also just trading queens is very drawish, for sure. Maybe queen D4. You don't really want to go for this now, I don't think, because that's going to drop with check, which is annoying. But maybe it's worth it, because maybe you get this other pawn attacking this pawn. Who knows? And then you could trade off these 2 pawns for these 2 pawns. And you're just left with pawns on the same side. But still, I like white. I like white a little bit better than black here. Because I don't like this pawn structure near the king. I think that's just gonna be a bigger factor with queens left on the board. But if Emily trades queens, I think I start to like black a little bit more. So we'll see. It feels drawish for sure. If they trade, it's definitely a little bit more drawish. And this is a big moment for Emily. Does she trade? And I think that kind of gets rid of a lot of winning chances for her. Leaving queens on, still drawish, right? But I think she has more opportunities to play and give her opponent more opportunities to blunder, importantly. So leaving the queens on, queen d4 played. I love this. I agree with it. Emily doesn't look that confident in herself. I think she winced a little bit. Maybe she regrets not trading queens, but I think that this is good in the long run to leave queens on the board because the game is still young. You know, lots of time left on the clock, lots of chances to induce blunders, right? I agree. I think she should take her chances to keep playing the game, right? As drawish as it might seem or as risky as it might seem, I think that the pin on the rook is very advantageous, right? The weakness that her opponent has is worth leaving queens on as an attacker. So we see the king lift. This gets out of the pin. But again, there's a lot of checks, right? And Emily can trade queens still on her own terms if she wants. But now she could play something like rook f6 as well, which is a strong idea. And then maybe go for checkmate or something. Yeah, that would be a mate threat. If she could get rook f6 with queen h4, she's threatening rook check and rook mate, which would be wild. So let's see. Does she go for rook f6? That would be nice. That's a strong move. It's not necessarily winning, but it's still exciting, right? If the opponent's king's pawns are separated, attack them. There's tactics, for sure. So, yeah, king stepped up, and now let's see if Emily finds rook f6. It's a big move. Hits the queen, hits the h-pawn. Oh, she allows a queen trade. She checks. Oh, they're smiling. They're laughing. I think Emily like regretted not trading queens. They might they're talking to each other. Okay, they trade. Yeah, this though I think black is better now because they have the outside a pawn. So I think leaving queens on was right. And I think trading queens is wrong. She has 3 points out of 5. I don't think they offered a draw. Okay, so pawn push. I think that maybe the f pawn should have pushed so the rook defended the base, because now rook e7 can hit. The rook can come behind. So there's still actually chances for Emily to win. If black is a little careless, these pawns could start dropping like flies. I don't think b5 particularly helps the position. Rook e7 would be a good move, but no. King here, and now, I don't know. Rook here, though, would lead to a fork, so that's f-pawn push. I don't know. Here, yeah, if we go rook here, there's rook here. The computer likes rook e8 now. Because, yeah, if you go to rook e7, maybe then there's a pawn push. I don't know. Okay, she's played rook d4. And, yeah, honestly, I don't really know. Maybe, like, h4 would have been helpful to prevent rook g5, because then you'd be threatening to hit the pawns. I mean, dude, they're playing fast, though. I don't know. I don't know. There's a ton of time left on the clock. I mean, at this pace, Black's probably not gonna get below an hour. Emily has 48 minutes. But yeah, the A pawn is pushing for sure. I think Black really should have tried getting the rook behind them. Okay, Emily's going behind, which is a little passive. And yeah, Black's going forward. Yeah, Black's playing for the win, for sure. Which is a little scary. I'm imagining Rook's going to come here. I don't know. King f3 is probably fine. I wonder if you go like Rook d7, hit the pawn with tempo, and then play like Rook behind the pawns. Because I would rather be behind the pawns than in front of the pawns, right? So I think Rook d2 is a little passive, a little in the wrong direction. She's tired from her last win. I mean, maybe not her last win, because to be fair, that game was kind of short. But the last game of any tournament is always the most tiring, because the tournament's kind of like a little bit of a marathon. Yeah, she's played 2 games a day for 3 days now. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. What's up, Jerome? Good to see you. Oh, she forgot to hit the clock and the opponent did it for her? Okay, I missed that, but that was nice. I saw they were like talking and laughing. I didn't know. I can't hear them. They've muted their mic, unfortunately. No, this is still winnable for Emily for sure, because I mean, there's so many blunders in any position, right? Like Emily could somehow pick up these pawns and get a passer of her own. But yeah, in all honesty, I think there's so much to take away from this game already, as is. I think that's also why playing OTB is so helpful for your chess, because you really get that classical time control to think over all your moves and really sit on the position and try to find the best moves and lines. That's why it's so valuable to take that time instead of playing too quickly. Yeah, rook f2 I think is a step in the wrong direction again. So like the rook should have gone up twice now. Instead has gone backwards and now over here, and this just allows the king to step up. So this rook has no moves on Black's half of the board, right? Whereas on the d file, we at least had that option still to get behind. So Emily has played 2 moves now, bringing the rook to a worse position, right? You had 2 different ways you could attack the pawn, the f pawn, right? If you really wanted to attack the f pawn, you have 2 options. If you go here, you're just letting, like, there's no more threats anymore. So if you go here, even if the black pawn's defended by the same move, let's say, your rook still has visibility to the rest of the board to cause problems and to tie Black's rook down or to halt the pawns, etc. But And you go to f2, it's just a little bit more passive. So Emily's rook and pawn in game here. We could use a little bit more technique, I think. Still an even position, but if you allow black the time and the space, then their pieces are going to start invading. And yeah, the pawn structure is not so good. The rook is going to f1 now. And yeah, black's going to go after our pawns. And what's even worse is if we go here, then they're going to hit us with b4. So really, she has to go to b1, and she's going to lose 2 pawns for the price of 1. And also, just to show you how dire this is now, rook b1 is actually the only move Emily can make that's not completely losing. If she does anything else, it's over -5 for black. So that's not a good sign. Yeah, I just hope that she sees, as long as she sees that b4 hits and the pawn is pinned, then she should be able to find rook b1. Okay, and she's played it. Rook b1. She's going to lose 2 pawns for the price of 1. And yeah, there's really only black playing for a win. But we'll see. We'll see what black does. But yeah, this is not a fun rook and pawn end game. That's for sure. And that's why I didn't really want to trade queens. I think she should have left queens on. But leaving queens on is always a little scary, always a little risky. But I think she needed to trust that her king was safer than black's. And yeah, black doesn't take the pawn. They just step the king up. And now we can at least save our e-pawn. King f3 is a good move. I was thinking like rook b4, but I guess they'll just take. We take with check, and then the king steps even further. Although I guess that gives us another check to fork the king and the pawn. So I don't know. Rook and pawn endgames are so tricky and so difficult. It's very likely that neither player is going to have a really clean conversion, even if they get to a winning position. So it's a draw with perfect play, but I think the play is going to be far from perfect, just based off of how the game has been played so far. I think that's not going to be a surprise to anyone, especially as the time keeps running farther down. Opponent hasn't dipped below 120 yet. And yeah, Emily's played the best move, king f3, just boxing the black king out. Now we have some checks at our disposal. They have free donuts there. A3 played. A3 I think is a mistake, because now I think you could play rook b3, and the idea is you're defending your c pawn and you're also hitting the a pawn. There's no way to defend the pawn besides pushing it, but then you get the rook behind the pawn, and then there's really no defending it. You would trade your c pawn for the a pawn, and then you just got to stop the b pawn. So yeah, a3, not the best move. To be fair, it's not easy to find the best move. Computer likes king e5. Just keep bringing the king over, I guess. Maybe like you just bring the king to defend the b pawn and then go after the c pawn. Black maybe rushing things with the a pawn, just going a little too fast. Definitely, you don't want to go to a1, right? That would be like losing on the spot. That would be so bad. That would be really rough. don't go rook a1, Emily. The idea is that they would just take the pawn and defend their pawn, and we're not keeping pressure. Whole idea of rook b1 is that if they ever take, we take, which is great because that's just a trade. And then we can get behind the pawn. There's no way they can really, I mean, they could try, but yeah, here we go rook b3, and there's just no saving the a pawn, right? We're going to play rook a3 next, pretty much no matter what. What they could do is no, they can't do that because our pawn covers that square as well. So rook b3, you got this, Emily. She could also play g4 check. You don't want to play e4 check because then the pawn falls with check. There's no opportunity for us to grab the b pawn in return. So very important that we don't play e4 check. E4 check, though, is at least somewhat interesting because we still have rook b3 at least, but I still think it's suboptimal because we do expose the king a little bit and we weaken the pawn as well. So yeah, I think she really should just play rook b3. There's also, you could push the g pawn or the h pawn, but I'm not in love with pushing the h pawn because it's not with check. Playing g4, we can still at least play rook b3 next. If we push the h pawn, then, I mean, maybe they play like a2. I mean, a2 is probably not great still, but who knows? Who knows? I don't think they would play a2 is the thing, because then that's really obvious. You have to play rook a1 at that point, and then you're guaranteed to get that a pawn. But Emily has yet to play rook b3, and I think she's looking at pawn checks. She's looking at the other side. Okay, maybe she's looking back at the a pawn, because obviously black had just played it. So, and it's one square away from attacking your rook. It's 2 squares away from promoting. There's Ben Feingold. I hope that Ben didn't see when Emily played f3, because that could have been a disaster. Although maybe Emily did it on purpose. She knew how close she was to Ben. Ben probably has some like f3 senses in proximity. He's like, f3. He felt it for sure. Would he have flipped out? Wait, was that Ben? That is the Ben Feingold. Well, we don't see him now, but he was there. How did last game go? She won. She got a checkmate pretty quickly, which was really nice. Opponent blundered, mate in 2. Okay, Emily has not played a good move. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, and she's wincing. She's gotta deploy the leave the board tactic. Oh no, this is probably game over. She played the move that she was not supposed to play. Because now black is gonna get 2 pass pawns. Yeah, opponent threw the a pawn away, and Emily said, "I'll do you one more and give you this." Because I think she must have seen this back when she played rook b1. Like, she must have seen this, and then she didn't do it. And a couple moves later, I think she just forgot about it, and then she fell for it. So this is what we call a blunder in the business. And if I can classify it, it's a big blunder, because there's really not a lot of chances to recover. Being down a pawn is fine. She ended up not having to even go down a pawn. She was actually just gonna like take the a pawn. But here she's gonna have 2 connected pass pawns to deal with, which is gonna be very difficult to deal with, if not impossible. You would resign? I don't think you should resign. Welcome, Rex. This is Emily's second ever tournament. This is her first tournament streaming. Opponent's rating is about 750. I think she's a little underrated. She's been playing some really aggressive tactics and ideas. Um, she's made some mistakes for sure. Emily just hasn't capitalized on it, unfortunately. But this is a big one. Emily did win her last game, yes. So she's 3 out of 5. Likely to lose this one, and she'll end 3 out of 6. Yeah, now that opponent has walked away, Emily gives a really rough look. She's not gonna feel great about this one, unfortunately. But yeah, like this was played with 30 minutes on the clock, right? Um, and it might feel like she's using a lot of time, especially when you compare it to her opponent. But you really can't, be comparing yourself to someone. Like obviously, you don't want to be too far away from your opponent's time. But I think in this particular instance, you just have to know that your opponent is playing abnormally fast. Yeah, C4 I think is like pretty much one of the only tries. Um, but yeah, B3 that should just about do it. Now black could throw for sure. They've played A2, which is probably better actually. Because just simply B3 and B2 they're coming, and it's not easy to stop, unfortunately. Yeah, her king is too far. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's like some like pawn check. Yeah, she throws in one check. I'm like trying to create a selfmate for black. Okay. Yeah, they go to where there's not that many checks, which is pretty smart. Uh I don't know. Maybe like the king can get to like D4. Try to hit the rook, try to throw black off. I think Emily needs her king to like teleport to like here or here. The problem is the king is not a knight. Because I imagine if the king is here, like after pawn push, then at least she can get, to C3. Or if the king is here, right, the king can help control the B2 square. Once both pawns get to the second, that's GG. So, okay. Yeah, I think we needed to bring the king in because I was thinking like imagine Emily had played king here, pawn push, and then king here. Just B2 is winning, but maybe we throw black off by a tempo. They save their rook, and then we get to C3. Maybe. I don't know. But it was maybe worth a try. She pushed the H pawn. I mean, B2 is next. There's no threats actually anymore that white could make. This was the one threat I saw as an attempt. It doesn't work, right? Because they could just play B2 still. But maybe they move the rook there. I don't know. But not, I mean, obviously, the. All right. Anyways, we tried. We tried. This is a rough game. I guess the lesson, we shouldn't play F3 so close to Ben Feingold, really. I mean, he's right there. No, there were so many chances, both directions, really. This game started off, opponent blundered a pawn, Emily blundered a pawn back by a nice tactic. She took the wrong way. She took with a knight, which later on was an advantage. But I think in the end, after the queens were off, it's just a really rough rook and pawn endgame. Emily just walked into this pen. Rook c1 was the end of it, really. So, yeah, if she had played rook b3, like maybe she is actually playing for a win. But I think this game really never should have gotten to like rook and pawn endgame. I think that she should have left the queens on, and what else was there? Yeah, opponents like not even playing optimally. Like they should have just played b2. They could have taken this pawn. So like yeah, seriously, like if she had brought the king here, like I don't know, the h pawn could have cost her actually. But surely after this, surely they'll play b2 after. Maybe she's just, she's just drawing out the inevitability, just illustrating the fact how helpless White's position is right now. Yeah, if she could teleport the king, you know, we'd have a game on our hands. But we cannot do that. Rook a5 was best. I mean, I don't I mean, I don't know. Was it actually? Okay. It technically is the best. Oh, it likes rook c4 too. Actually, no. I mean, I think like yeah, the difference in not playing b2 is you save an extra pawn, I guess. But like in actuality, I think b2 is just winning for all intents and purposes. How does one join an official tournament like this? You have to get a USCF rating, or not a rating, but a membership. You pay for a membership, which is not, it's not like expensive, right? You pay like, I don't know. I'm just gonna, someone correct, if I'm wrong, then that'll encourage more people to correct me. So I'm just gonna throw a number out there. Let's say it's like $40 for a year, or like $44 for a year, something like that. You pay that membership fee to USCF, and then you can register for tournaments. And then each tournament you join typically has its own registration fee. It's so wrong, Joe. Okay. You don't know the right number. All right. I was hoping someone would know. I'm pretty sure mine expired. But a lot of times you could just go up to a tournament and register on the spot there and pay for the fee. Okay, $54 for 1 year. My bad. I was $10 off. $105 for 2 years. That's crazy. If you get that second year membership, you're saving. Wait, how much are you? You're saving like what, $3? Huge. Yeah, Cash Carbon not only plays online but also streams. So shout out to Cash Carbon. Everyone, please go check him out. He's a really great guy, really entertaining. He's got one of the best voices I've ever heard, and he's strikingly handsome. Like overwhelmingly so. It's hard to look at the stream for too long because then I just kind of lose where I am. I have to like look away from the computer to really like it's basically an out of body experience watching a Cash Carbon stream. Dina says never resign. I can get behind that. You paid $400 for a life membership back in the 80s? I mean, that worked out for sure. Are you titled? I feel like it's kind of a rude question to ask people. Are you titled? I mean, I've been playing chess for what? I guess 12 plus years now. I'm not titled. I don't know if I'll ever get a title. So okay, she could play pawn to g5. That is a legal move. That's true. She brought her king up, and now b2 hits, and b2 hits hard. So there's probably gonna be two queens on the board, or I mean, she's just losing her rook for at least one queen. FIDE online title, we don't talk about those. Joe Bruin retirement arc. 12 years not title is true. I mean, what a vast majority of players will play their whole lives without becoming titled. There's nothing wrong with being. I figure if you're titled, you get a lot of stuff for free. I think. I assume. Like, I don't think you have to pay for a membership anymore once you're titled. That was the only reason why I asked. Because like, okay, if $100, let's just like shorten the membership prices to $50 a year, basically, right? $100 for 2 years. $400 is basically 8 years. So if you plan on playing chess for more than 8 years, then I guess the life, I mean, $400 though, what I forgot is the account for inflation. I don't know how much that is back in the 80s. That probably could have bought you like a house. Okay, there's Ben Feingold. He's like, yeah, she played F3, didn't she? The Ben Feingold walk of shame. I mean, I'm sure some of us have played in tournaments, but I don't know how many of us can say that they've played in front of Benjamin Feingold. I don't think Emily noticed. $400 in 1980 is 1,018 today. It's probably about 800. It's like, okay, so like about double. So hold on, should we assume that the USCF membership is the same price back then? I don't know. You'd be honored to have Ben watch your game. All right, Emily. She's played it, you guys. She played E4, connecting 4 in a row. Okay, this is really good technique there by the opponent. Did you see? She pushed the pawn to B1 and then queened it. That is proper queening technique. A lot of us have never played over the board, right? Most of us, I'd say, we play online. So you don't really pick up on a little bit of these details, right? You have to push the pawn to where it promotes first. Otherwise, I don't know what the penalty is. If she had just put the queen there and taken the pawn, I don't know. Like, also, I know that's for a fact a FIDE thing. I don't know if USCF cares as much. Because I think in USCF, you could put like an upside down rook and call it a queen. But in FIDE, it doesn't matter if the piece is upside down or not. It's still a rook. So I know they're a little picky on that. I don't know the whole like pawn push to promote thing. But all right, there's resignation. There's a queen on the board. And yeah, Emily just had a bad blunder in the rook and pawn endgame, and it cost her. But obviously, a lot of things before that could have been cleaned up a little bit to help her out. But it's a lesson learned. There's a lot to review from this one. And we're going to see if we can get an interview from Emily after this. So stick around. We could put some questions in the chat for her, and we'll see what she has to say. But all in all, I have to say, a solid tournament. 3 out of 6. That's a neutral score. 50%, right? 3 wins, 3 losses. Not bad. And her first ever tournament that she streamed over the board, which is a huge learning experience. There's a lot of things that you have to line up, right? Emily had commentators for all of her games, which not every streamer there has. We rated Dina earlier today, who, by the way, we have confirmed for commentary this weekend for the Collegiate Chess League, which is very exciting. But yeah, Emily was able to get her phone set up to stream. She's got commentators, game interviews, DGT boards, working with the organizers to make sure all of that is set up. That's a huge milestone for Emily. And this will be the first of hopefully many over the board tournaments that Emily's going to be streaming. So that's very exciting. And we see now we're getting abducted here. We're getting lifted off into the unknown. So she's gonna take us outside the playing hall so that she can talk to us. And yeah, fun game to go over. Thank you, Kirby, for being here. All right, we're gonna work to get her camera back. I think maybe we'll go over the game from the start. Yeah, this is already mistake number 1. She's going after the pawn. Mistake number 2, she grabs the pawn. And here's Emily's first mistake. She blunders this pawn. Second mistake, she should take with the e pawn. She takes back the wrong way. That allows for black to really push in the center. So that's kind of rough. Hello. Hi. How's it going? Oh, no apologies needed.
Like the minute I started playing, it just wasn't going to be a good game, but
Oh,
oh
that's
well.
not true. That's so not true.
No, it is. It is. It's like I just couldn't see anything. I mean, I hung that rook queen fork and just I
No,
don't
no,
know.
no, no, no. It was way more complicated, and I think you got to give yourself a little bit more credit. And I think you can't go into a game knowing that it's going to be really bad because that's a self-fulfilling
Well,
prophecy.
I didn't, but like I was just looking at the board and like, oh my gosh, I don't know. It's just I felt different than the other, like just not good.
I think
But
that it got really tricky really quickly, and I think you did actually a really good job of not making it really bad. In fact, you even got it to a really good position. And I think that when you simplified, you can definitely fine tune a little bit in the middle game, tactics
yeah.
wise. But I think the biggest takeaway here should probably be the rook and pawn in game.
Ugh.
Probably you shouldn't trade queens, I would say. Um,
Yeah. Uh, I
and just
know.
leave the queens on and just keep attacking with the queen and the rook.
Yeah, at that point I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go for a draw, but then
And
I
that's
don't.
that's where you get burned. Is you
Yes.
got to keep pushing because if you go passive, then your opponent can then start playing for the win, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like I was pretty passive the whole game, but it's okay. I'm happy with my performance for the most part, just not the last game. But
Yeah, I
it's
think
okay.
I think if we look at the tournament as a whole overall, I think you did really well. I think that 3 out of 6 is a really respectable score, and I think that this is also really big for you in terms of streaming because this is your first ever streamed tournament, which is a huge milestone, really good experience to have under your belt, and I think this is something that's going to be really helpful for you in the future.
I agree. Yes. Well, thank you, Joe, for commentating. Sorry I couldn't give you a win, but
You gave me a
yeah.
win in the first game. And even
That's
if you had
true.
lost both games, I think we're all still very happy and proud of you to have even gone through this and to share this with us. And I think that we're all really excited and looking forward to the next one, whenever that may be.
Soon, soon. I actually, yeah, this was fun. I feel like I enjoyed it more than the last tournament, even though, it didn't end the way that I had hoped. But I'm still feeling good. I'm gonna keep playing. I'm gonna do another tournament soon, so stay tuned. And of course, the pool online always.
Yeah, when's the next Emily stream and tournament?
Uh, I don't know. TBD, but soon, hopefully.
All right, you heard it here, folks. You gotta stay tuned. You gotta subscribe, turn on notifications, because otherwise you might miss Emily's next stream and tournament.
And to Joe, of course, he's
No, I don't
awesome.
even I don't even know how the pieces move anymore.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Yeah, okay. If anyone doesn't know how the pieces move, it's me. Oh my goodness. I spent so long, okay. Like literally this is when I knew I was in trouble is when I don't remember when she played that knight move and it was a discovery on my bishop. For some reason I was like convinced I was losing a piece there, but I wasn't. I was fine. But like I spent so long thinking about that and then I looked at it and I was like, "Oh wait, I don't even know." And that's just when I knew I was like not on my A game, you know.
yeah, well, she blundered her pawn, so you were already up a pawn, right?
Yeah.
And then she had that really nice tactic, but she was just winning a pawn back. So at that point, it was still even. In fact, you were still a
Yeah.
little bit better actually.
Well, I thought I was losing like a full piece for some reason. I don't know. And then I looked at it and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
I don't
because you forgot that their knight was hanging too when you take
sorry.
it. So you should have taken with a pawn there. Actually, you took with your knight.
Yes. Yes. Wait, hang on. Um sorry, there was
That's a very nice
an
hotel
incident.
there.
It is. It's a really nice hotel. It's a Marriott. Not sponsored, but this is very nice. I would recommend. Um yeah, I don't know what kind of Marriott it is, but it's the nicest hotel I've seen in a while. So okay, wait, you were saying I could have taken with the pawn.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Again, I just like spent so long. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. My brain was just like not working. Literally. I thought about it for so long and I was trying to calculate these lines and I was like, I don't know, just F it. And I just made a move. Which is not good. That's not how you should play chess. I
I
know.
I
But
think I think you also didn't really respond well to your opponent playing really quickly because I think it made you feel that you were playing slower than you really were
yeah.
because you still had 30 minutes left at the end of the game, right?
Yeah.
Which is a lot of
Hmm.
time. Like 30 minutes is a lot. So if you feel like, oh man, I've been thinking so long or whatever, F it, I'm just gonna make a move.
Yeah.
Like you really should just start by, okay, what are my options, right? Like what was their last move? What are they doing exactly? And like what are the options that I have to respond with, right? And in that position where they sack their knight, you could take with two pawns or your knight. And you took with a knight. But you really should take with a pawn because then their e pawn started pushing down the board and started attacking all your pieces. So, but if you take with a pawn, then they couldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole game I just did not feel good. And I feel like I don't know.
It's okay,
Oh
and
well.
even though it might not have felt good because you were really like defensive the whole time and they were really attacking you, they didn't play very well in some really key moments, right? So
Well, I think that's what was annoying me too is like I saw some mistakes that she was making and then the fact that I was not I don't know, I just knew I like wasn't taking advantage of them the right way and I was just frustrated with myself the whole game basically. So
yeah, it's rough if you're in that sort of mind space because if you're like beating yourself up, it's really hard to like refocus and like convince yourself that okay, they missed something, right? They're not playing their best. You
yeah.
should think like how do I take advantage of that, right? Like what was actually wrong with what they did and how can I make the most out of it? So I don't know if you remember, they played Queen C7 threatening checkmate with their knight
Yeah.
and you blocked
Mhm.
with your rook
Mhm.
and then they attacked your rook with their pawn. They pushed
Mhm.
G5. That's a
Mhm.
really big blunder because now their king's really weak and you did the
Yeah.
best move. You took the knight with your rook right? You got their bishop.
Mhm.
You dropped your bishop on c4, but then you take their g pawn,
Mhm.
and now
Yeah.
their king is really weak. And this is
Yes.
actually winning for you. They
Mhm.
played rook g8, hitting your queen, and now you have two different checks.
Mhm.
Both of them are winning.
Mhm.
But queen f6 would have been better. You
Mm.
played queen
Okay.
e5 check. Their
Yeah.
only
Mhm.
response to either is to block with the rook, right? But now
Mhm.
they're pinned.
Mhm.
And here, the winning idea, you have to attack the pinned piece.
Mhm.
Play knight f5. You took the pawn, and then your knight was pinned to your queen. So this was like a mistake here.
Mm.
Then you
Okay.
went back for the
Yeah.
pin. You eventually played knight f5, right, which is
Mhm.
good. And we could go into this maybe a little bit later. Um, but I think you
No, I know what
really,
you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, you needed the queen f6 because that way you would have saved some moves, and then maybe you could have gotten the rook into the game sooner than you did.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was kind of babysitting that pawn for a while, but I felt like, well, I don't know. Yeah. It was passive for most of the game.
Yeah,
For
I
that
think
reason.
the
But
last
yeah.
your last real chance of winning. So like when the dust settled after like the exchanges were traded or whatever, you were up two pawns, right? And you were
Hmm.
better. But
Yeah.
then when she threatened mate on g2 with her queen, you had, I don't know if you ever saw queen b8 check and then taking their b pawn,
Mm, no.
because that would have saved both your b pawn and your g pawn. So that would have been really good. Instead,
Um,
you played
okay.
g3, and then that lost both your a and b pawns. So that's what ended up, I think, costing you
Yeah.
ultimately. This is the last
Yeah.
chance that you had to keep the advantage.
So at the end game, like after everything was off the board, was that did she have an advantage or was it a draw?
I mean, yeah, as soon as you traded queens, it was dead drawn, but that's like with
Yeah.
perfect play. I think both chances
Yeah.
still, or both sides could still have chances to win. But
Hmm.
what really hurt you was you went really passive with your rook. You brought your rook backwards, but you should have brought it forwards and gotten behind their pawns. You tried
Hmm.
stopping their pawns from the front, but that's really passive. So what you should have done is brought
Yeah.
the rook down. Um, like as soon
Behind
as yeah, as
them
soon as their
or
b
yeah.
pawns start pushing, like as soon as you go like rook d2 to f2, that's just so passive.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think you probably saw as soon as they attacked the c pawn, you went rook b1 attacking their b pawn, which is the right idea.
Hmm.
Because if you go to c1, you see that like b4 just wins, right?
Yeah.
I think you
Hmm.
saw it at this point. That's why you played rook b1, and then later
Yeah.
on you fell for it. That's where you lost.
Yeah. Yeah. I admittedly have not looked into end games too much, just like king and pawn basically. And I know like if it's one rook and two kings, but like I don't know. They seem like she seemed pretty confident with at least like what she needed to do. I don't know if she played perfectly, but I really had no idea what to do. And I was like spending all this time trying to
Well,
think it
I think
through and
you're when you played rook c1 after they played a3, there was one really important move here that I think you would have been able to hold the position if you play rook to
Mhm.
b3 attacking their a pawn. I think you're fine. I think you might even have
Mhm.
chances to win because you technically be up a pawn.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I
Mm,
mean, it's
yeah.
like okay, maybe you don't actually win a pawn if you go here. Maybe they do something. You take this, then they take this. Um,
Here, wait. Okay, now I need.
but
Wait, hang on. Let me. 1 sec. Let me pull up the Twitch. I was following you, but now I want to see what you're saying because, and I'll switch it back to, um.
I
Oh.
it's maybe not that big of a deal. I'm also
Oh,
happy
here
we
you go.
could review all of the games maybe on like a another stream.
Uh oh. Did I mess this up again? Is that better? Oh no.
It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Well, I do see it. Um, okay. Yeah. Oh. Oh
Hold
wait,
on.
now
I
here.
didn't show you. Hold on. So they had just played a3, which is a step in the wrong direction. Like they're really weakening their a pawn. So now the a pawn's really weak. You should play rook b3 because you're just gonna win the pawn. If they try to save it, they could push, but you just get behind it. And
Mm,
now there's really no way to save it. Although,
yeah.
if by the time you pick up the a pawn, they can probably take your c pawn. So I was saying they could just do
Yeah.
something random, takes, but it's gonna be really hard for them to win at this point because you just took their a pawn. So
Yeah.
yeah, but you definitely can't go
Uh,
to the c file because then b4 just GG basically.
uh, yeah. I really like, I don't know. I tried to think it through and I didn't know what I needed to do.
It's
But that
okay.
makes sense. That makes sense. You got to get the rook behind.
I think seeing b4 is really important. Seeing that you're like in a pen, right? That you're allowing the second pawn to get through.
I didn't even see that. I
Yeah.
until as soon as I played it, I was like,
Yeah,
oh my
I
goodness.
figured you saw it back here where they first attacked the c pawn.
I did. I
Yeah,
did.
and then you
And I
forgot
think
about
at
it
this
later.
point, to be honest, I just thought I was like completely losing and I started kind of just like being lazy. But I see that.
Mm. Yeah, rook b3 and you're fine. I mean, you could even play like king e2 and still you're fine. Um, it's not ideal, but like what you don't want to do, you don't want to go to a1 because they'll take your pawn and defend their a pawn. You don't want to go to c1 because then they get b4 in. So you either have to play rook b3 or you have to play some like other like g4 check or move the h pawn. Even is fine.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think like earlier, your rook is fine here in the center, but you move the rook all the way over here, and you get all the way, down here. So your rook went from in the center to kind of tucked away. So best would be to try to go up somewhere and get behind the pawns, right?
Hmm.
Because that way your rook is still active. You're giving yourself the most amount of squares to go to, right? So like you could count all of the squares the rook has here.
Hmm.
By the time you got to like f2 and their king steps up, now your rook only has these options. It's far fewer options. So you're
Yeah.
you're really hurting your chances. Um, and even this position is still fine, right? The whole end game was fine until you played rook c1. But the problem is you put yourself into a position where you're really minimizing how many moves you have available to keep a draw. But if you
Yeah.
keep the rook active and get behind the pawns, then you're keeping your chances really high. Like something I didn't like about rook f2 is that you're attacking the f pawn, right? But they just step the king up. They're improving their position and they're taking away all the squares from your rook. You could have attacked the f pawn by playing rook d7, right?
Hmm.
They could still play the same king move, but now you can get behind the pawns and there's just no way they can push them.
Yeah. See, yeah, I forgot that you're supposed to put the rook behind.
That's okay.
I played that rook c1 move and both Tony and Dina were like looking and they both kind of just like made a face. And I was like,
It was
I don't
just
know.
it was yeah. Did you see Ben Feingold was also looking at your game?
Yeah, at that, yeah, I know.
Shout out to Ben. Do you know Ben doesn't like the move f3?
I know. Actually, I was thinking of him when I played that. I had second thoughts about that move. I mean, I wasn't sure. At that point, I really had no idea what to do. Like, I didn't have like a clear plan or anything. I that's what I was spending so long thinking is like, okay, where do I, what do I need to do? Like, where should my pieces go? And then I was like, okay, I feel like this. opens up the rook. It supports the center, but it probably was not the best move. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
nothing I played was the best move.
it wasn't the best move. I don't think it was really that bad. I think your opponent did a good job of trying to make it bad
Yeah.
because your e pawn became really weak and their queen on b6 was really strong.
Yeah.
But I think they missed their best chances. When you played bishop c4, that was kind of a blunder because they had
Was
queen
it?
c5, which is a fork.
Mhm.
That would have been rough for you for sure.
Ooh.
Um, but
Yes.
also, but also, I thought their idea was they could simply just take the knight and then win your e pawn. So when they played knight g4, that was actually a mistake. And I think how you played was good because you got this attack on the f pawn.
Hmm.
You said that you like blundered the fork of the queen and the rook, but you really didn't actually, because of how weak their f pawn is. Because you could have gotten a fork back on them.
True. True. True.
So they put the king in the corner. Now you should just defend the e pawn, which is what you did. And I think yeah, rook f4 followed by rook takes g4. This is where you're playing really well actually, and I think you have to give yourself a little bit more credit. After you
Doesn't
take on
look like.
g5, you're really like, this is a winning position actually. So you're down in exchange, but you're completely winning because of how weak their king is. And you're not even really down in exchange because you're going to check them and you're going to play knight f5. And like there's no
Yeah.
other way that they could stop checkmate actually. So they really have to go um, rook here. But I think you just went after the e pawn, which was like it was very much like far off of the main objective. Right? You're grabbing a pawn
Yeah.
when you're like inches away from like checkmating them. Um,
Uh,
so like
this is tragic.
yeah,
Yeah. I
queen
mean, I definitely felt
f6,
like I was winning here. Like for
knight
sure, I felt like I was
f5,
winning.
rook g8. This is all very very forced, right? Like you saw you had the check, right?
Yeah.
And their only move against the check is to block with the rook. There's no other options here, but you have two choices. f6 is the better choice.
Hmm.
After they blocked, now just knight f5 right away. What you did, you grabbed the pawn, right? Check, block, pawn grab. Now you don't have knight f5 anymore.
Yeah.
And the rook's also not pinned anymore. And now they have an extra move to get the rook doubled here. Whereas if you compare that
Yes.
to queen f6, they block. Now you play knight f5 immediately. They have to defend this rook, otherwise it's checkmate. So they go rook g8, and now you can take, they take, and now just the winning shot, you just play rook d1. And now there's really no stopping back rank mate. They have to give
Yeah.
up the queen. And it's important your queen's on f6 because your queen supports the rook going there.
Hmm.
If we compare that to, like, if we play what happened in the game here, even if you go knight f5 in this position, they could still play rook g8. You could take, they could take. You could still play rook d1, but your queen's not on f6. So all they have to do, they could bring their queen back somewhere, like to c8, right? And
Hmm.
okay, you can play queen f6 here, and you're still completely winning. But what else? What else?
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. I definitely.
I
I
think
don't
yeah,
know.
you got
It just
sidetracked
wasn't.
by a pawn. That's really what happened. You got sidetracked for one move. Um, but by the time you get the rook, their queen prevents you from activating the rook. So you grabbed a pawn before like your rook was playing, right? So if you played knight
Yeah.
f5 immediately, then yeah, at least your rook can come to the d file. You get the material back and a lot of activity.
Hmm.
But yeah, you just got really greedy with the pawn grab here. And then when you needed to be greedy and grab a pawn, you missed it. This queen b8 to take on b7 would have been really good.
Yeah.
Because that way you hold on to your pawn advantage. Like you would lose your e pawn with check, but that pawn's really weak. Like you would much rather keep. Because another thing is when you lose the b pawn, you lose the a pawn with it. And their a and b pawns are the ones that ended up promoting, right?
Yeah.
It's because of
Yes.
two
Yeah.
things. One thing, you didn't take them, and second thing is you dropped yours. So you played g3,
Uh,
and this is really the last. This was the last moment that you could hold on to your advantage. And I think you might not. I mean, you knew you were up 2 pawns, but maybe you got it into your head like, okay, this is mate and this is a fork, and there's really like no way out of this. But you just have a check, and then you grab the b7 pawn, and then you're
mm,
defending everything. You're defending everything
yeah,
except the e pawn. So you just have to let go of the e pawn with check, but it's worth it because you hold on to everything else
yeah.
if you just take the b pawn.
Uh, I'm surprised I was doing that well at this point because honestly, the whole game, like, I just felt like I was making a ton of errors.
I mean, both sides were making errors though, right? Like
Yeah.
like
But
it,
like, I don't know. Like, you just feel like when you're playing good chess and when you're not. Well, I knew I wasn't.
I mean, if we looked at your last game, not the
Hmm.
very last one, but the second to last one, the one I watched this morning,
Yeah.
your opponent was you blundered your sacrifice, and technically they could have had a better position, and they
Yeah.
blundered mate in two, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want you to get caught up in the results, right? Because you could play poorly and still win, or you could play well and still lose.
Hmm.
I think ultimately you're still very much in the like learning stage where we shouldn't be so result oriented, and we should be focusing more on like the tactics and the positional mistakes
Yeah.
and like improving. So whether you win or you lose, there's still a lot of errors and blunders that you can learn from, and that is what I think is most important in your journey of chess improvement.
Yeah, for sure. Well, definitely a lesson in the connected past pawns. Because I don't know what I was thinking. I just like I wasn't thinking about those at all being an issue. I mean, I this is the first game the whole tournament that where there was an end game. So I feel like I've not really been thinking with the
Yeah,
end in sight.
yeah.
Which obviously is a mistake, but
Trading.
also
So yeah, when you lost the A and the B pawns, you're still not losing. You're still actually better. Um, it was where
until the queen trade.
when you
Yeah.
traded queens, that was a mistake because if you like take off, if you could imagine the queens and the rooks disappear, it's a better
Hmm.
end game for black because they have the only pass pawn, and it's an outside pass
Right.
pawn, right? So that is a clear sign that you want to keep material on the board.
Yeah.
And so you kept queens on here, but then when the king stepped up, you went for the queen trade, and that was a mistake. Because now your rook has to defend against the passed pawn, and their pieces are free to put pressure and attack you, right?
Yeah, that was really dumb. Honestly, the only reason I did that is because I was just done with this game and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make a move that seems drawish and then I'll offer a draw, and that's what I did. And then she said no because I gave her the pass.
Yeah, I think you maybe could offer the draw before you trade queens if that's what you want to do. But I think like you should just
Well, I thought for sure she was gonna accept it because like I don't know. So that was stupid of me. I'd never like I don't know. I'd never offered a draw before. Like,
yeah, usually the side that is doing better will decline the draw.
right. But
So
I thought it was. I mean, this is a drawn position
it's a drawn
technically.
position with perfect play. The thing
Yeah,
is you
but
just have to
which I
play
did not have.
perfectly. Yeah,
Yeah.
you blundered. So she was way up on the clock, right? That's another reason why
Yeah.
she
Well,
might
I
not.
wasn't. I wasn't even worried about that really. But like, what she was gonna flag me? Like, I don't know.
Well,
I
well,
didn't think
it's
I
not
wasn't
that
worried.
it's not that she would flag you, but it was that you would blunder in time pressure, which
Yeah.
technically happened, right?
Yeah. I mean, I still had enough time. Like, honestly, I just didn't even
I think it's
like
always the
know anything.
last game of the tournament is when you're the most tired, and it's the
Yeah.
easiest to like kind of lose the will to keep going. Uh, and it's also
Yeah.
just easier to be tired, and I think it's okay. I think that overall it's a good learning experience, and like I said, we're all very happy and proud of you. that you're able to stream your first ever tournament, and we're all looking forward to the next one. And regardless of result, I think 3 out of 6 is still good, and I think that people are still happy and proud for you.
That's very nice. Thank you. Well, there will be more. So stay tuned, Joe. Thank you for the coaching, the analysis, the commentating. If you guys haven't followed Joe, he's pretty cool, great at chess, legendary chess.com commentator. So make sure you follow him. And yeah, and next time, we'll do better, guys.
Well, doing better is it's you already did great, so you have high
No.
expectations, I think, which is good. And I think we all
Um,
believe that you can do better. There's another gear. There's maybe a couple more gears that Emily has to her. This is just the
there are.
start. This is the
But
first tournament of 2025.
that's true. That's true. And I feel like I definitely feel a lot better with just overall like how I played in this tournament versus the last one. So, we're making progress. And soon, we'll be killing it.
I think you're already killing it, and I think we're all
That's very
excited to
nice, Joe.
see you take it to the next level.
You're very nice. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Uh,
for having me. The honor is all
no,
mine.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, chat. I will see you sometime this week. Joe, we'll have to arrange another collab here soon.
I would love that, and we can go more in detail on maybe some of your other games as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. Have a good night, guys.
All
And
right.
thanks, Joe. I appreciate it very much.
Yep. Thank you, Emily. Take care.
Okay, you too. Bye.
All right. Well, that was the one and only Emily Higgins, soon to be chess grandmaster in no time. We'll see. But for now, we're going to raid another streamer. We raided Dina last time. Does Dina have a commentator? Is my only concern. I don't think she does. I think I'm going to raid Smoothly because why not? Otherwise, Emily's welcome to raid whoever. Don't raid me though, because I'm ending. Thank you, Zoomja. You're the goat, actually. I look like the Joe with the beard but shaved. Yeah, the lighting earlier is just too bright because the sun was up, but now it's like later in the day. Okay, are there any mods in Emily's chat that could send the raid? Because I have my raid ready. See you, Cash Carbon. You're amazing. Shout out to Cash. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you thought you did. I don't see it. Who are we rating? I am rating Smoothly. But you guys can rate whoever. Anyways, when my raid goes through, I'm just gonna end the stream. Here. I don't know. All right. Anyways, thanks everyone. Take care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.